You can imagine, for a moment, that you are settling beside a quiet fire at the edge of a very ancient night, a night that feels older than written history, older than any building, older even than the names of the lands that would eventually be spoken aloud. The world around you is dim and gentle, the kind of darkness that feels like soft fabric wrapped around your shoulders rather than something to be afraid of. Somewhere beyond your sight, someone slowly adds a piece of wood to the flame, and you hear the faintest shift in the air, the soft movement of heat, and then the calm, steady breathing of the fire as it continues its patient glow. In a place like this, long before screens and clocks and busy schedules, people would settle themselves at the end of a day and tell stories, letting the words drift up with the smoke into the star-filled sky. Tonight, you are here for something similar. You are here not to be tested or challenged, but to be gently carried. The subject of our journey is ancient myths, legends, and cultural mysteries, but they will not arrive in a sharp or overwhelming way. They will arrive like waves on a very still shore, each one soft, each one fading smoothly into the next. These are stories that have soothed people for thousands of years, told in caves and on ships, under desert skies and in mountain valleys, whispered between parents and children, and shared among friends who were simply trying to make sense of the world and of themselves. As you listen, you do not need to remember any specific detail. You don't have to keep track of names or dates or places. Each myth, each image, is like a passing cloud that you can watch for a time before it drifts away on its own. You can let your body become heavier where you are resting. You can feel the way your breath moves in and out, in an ancient rhythm that countless storytellers and listeners have shared before you. Breathing has always been a kind of quiet ritual, a background rhythm that keeps us rooted while our minds slip into other worlds. Myths are, in their own way, a form of soft nighttime architecture for the mind. They give shape to what is unknown and help us rest against something familiar, even when the story is about things we have never seen. Long before scientific explanations and detailed diagrams, people looked up at the stars, or out at the sea, or into the dense forest, and felt curiosity mixed with uncertainty. What is this place? Why is it here? Where did we come from? Where do we go after we die? Why do storms arrive when they do, and why do they leave? These questions can feel huge and restless, especially in the dark hours. Myths answered them not with charts or formulas, but with images and characters, with gentle, memorable patterns that could be told and retold until they felt like a familiar lullaby. If you think back to your own childhood, there may have been moments where someone told you a story that was never meant to be taken as literal fact, yet it mattered deeply. Perhaps it was a bedtime tale that explained why a certain animal behaves as it does, or a seasonal story about a holiday, or a simple story about how the moon came to be in the sky. Even if, as you grew older, you learned a different explanation in school, the feeling of that earlier story can linger. Like the sudden hush before a coming storm, you have sensed that mixture of uncertainty and awe before, that sensation that something big and mysterious is close by, just beyond what your eyes can see. Around the world, Myths developed independently, yet they share curious similarities. Scholars who study comparative mythology have noticed repeating patterns: worlds emerging from chaos, cosmic eggs hatching into reality, floods that reset the world, heroic journeys with trials and returns, trickster figures who disrupt and renew, and beings who symbolize the sky, the earth, and the waters in ways that echo across cultures. These patterns have been documented in many traditions and summarized by historians and anthropologists who compare stories from Mesopotamia, Greece, India, China, the Americas, and beyond. The details differ, but the underlying rhythms are remarkably familiar. Imagine, now, that the night beside the fire grows a little deeper. Above you, the stars are not just distant points of light, but the first canvas on which humans drew their stories. Before there were written books, the sky itself was a kind of shifting library. Constellations could become heroes and monsters, goddesses and guardians, maps and clocks. People used these patterns to travel, to keep time, and to remember. In this slow, quiet moment, we will let some of those ancient patterns unfold, starting with the biggest question of all: how did everything begin? Creation myths exist in virtually every culture. They are narratives that explain how the world came to be and how humans first entered it. According to studies of mythology, they often share features such as a primordial chaos, a separation of sky and earth, and the emergence of order from disorder, as seen in many traditions documented in comparative mythology resources. These stories are usually set in a kind of timeless past and are treated as meaningful, whether or not they are taken as literal fact. They are less like scientific reports and more like dreamlike explanations that feel emotionally satisfying. In ancient Greece, for example, one influential poet, Hesiod, described the beginnings of everything in his work about the births of the gods. He said that first there was chaos, not exactly in the sense of frantic confusion, but more like a vast, open emptiness. From this openness emerged Gaia, the earth, solid and nurturing. There was also Tartarus, a deep chasm far below, and Eros, a primordial force of attraction. Out of Gaia came the sky, Uranus, who arched over her, and together they produced other beings, the Titans and, eventually, generations of gods who would shape the world. Without needing to memorize any names, you can rest in the shape of that idea. Once, there is emptiness. Then there is a sense of ground, and above that, a sense of sky. Between them, life unfolds. It is a simple pattern: below and above, earth and heaven, stability and the unknown. When you lie down to sleep, you may feel something similar. There is the surface that holds you up, and then there is the space above you where your thoughts drift. Somewhere in between, your experience of the night unfolds. In another tradition, from the Old Norse world, the universe begins in a yawning gap called Ginnungagap. On one side is a realm of fire, Muspelheim, and on the other a realm of ice, Niflheim. When heat and cold meet in the center, They give birth to a giant named Ymir and to a cosmic cow named Aua_Humla. Ymir sleeps and sweats, and from his body more beings emerge, while the cow licks salty ice and uncovers another figure, Ba_Ori, ancestor of the gods. Later, Ymir''s body is used by the gods to build the world. His flesh becomes the earth, his blood becomes the seas, his bones become mountains, and his skull becomes the sky. There is something both strange and comforting in this image. The world is literally made from a body. It suggests that everything around you is part of something once living, that mountains and rivers and clouds are all part of a single, vast organism. You might not imagine the world this way in your daily life, but as you drift towards sleep, it can be soothing to entertain the idea that the ground under you is not just rock and soil, but a sleeping giant's body, supporting you in a patient, protective way. In some Chinese traditions, the cosmos begins with an enormous egg, floating in a primal, dark nothingness. Inside this egg is Pangu, a giant being who sleeps for a long time. When Pangu awakens, he stretches and cracks the shell. The light, clear parts float upward to become the sky, while the heavier, murkier parts sink downward to form the earth. To keep them separate, Pangu stands in between, holding sky and earth apart while he continues to grow. For many years, he holds this posture until the world is fully formed. When he finally lies down and dies, his body too becomes features of the landscape, his breath becoming wind, his voice thunder, his eyes the sun and moon, and so on, in a pattern similar to the Norse myth. It is fascinating that different cultures, separated by distance and language, imagined the world arising from a colossal body, whether a giant or some other primordial being, as well as from eggs and cosmic voids. Comparative mythology surveys show such motifs repeating in many places, catalogued as themes of cosmic eggs or creative sacrifice, where a being's body provides the materials for creation. Even if you are hearing this for the first time, something about it may feel familiar, as if you have already dreamed a similar story in your own personal way. You may notice that creation myths almost always move from something undifferentiated to something structured. They start with darkness, chaos, or an egg, and then introduce separation, sky from earth, light from dark, water from land. This is not so different from the way your mind moves when you fall asleep. At first, your thoughts may be tangled, a mixture of the day's events, worries, and random impressions. Gradually, as you drift, images begin to separate. A dream might take shape, a place, a time, a small narrative. In a sense, every night your mind performs miniature acts of creation, conjuring worlds for you to walk through, even if you forget them by morning. Across the ocean, in the ancient lands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, there is another kind of creation story, told in a text that scholars today call by its opening words in Akkadian. In it, the first beings are waters, fresh and salt, named Apsu and Tiamat. From their mingling come younger gods, and conflict arises. Eventually, The storm god Marduk defeats Tiamat and uses her divided body to fashion the heavens and the earth. The theme is again similar. A primordial being is sacrificed or reshaped into the structure of the world, and order arises from a kind of cosmic conflict. When we listen to these myths in a calm, nocturnal way, we don't have to take sides or treat them as competing explanations. Instead, we can let each one be a different dream humanity had about where we come from. Some dreams feel peaceful, like worlds hatching from eggs or rising gently from water. Some feel more dramatic, like battles between gods that end in a new beginning. Taken together, they show how deeply human beings wanted to feel that the world around them had a story, a purpose, a narrative arc they could rest inside. In some indigenous traditions, the world is not built from a body or hatched from an egg but brought forth through song, dreaming, or the patient work of animals. In so-called earth diver stories, which anthropologists have documented among various Native American groups and other cultures, the earth begins as endless water. A creator figure sends down a small animal, like a turtle or a muskrat, to dive into the depths and bring up a bit of mud. That little bit, placed on the surface, spreads and becomes land. These stories highlight humility. It is not a mighty warrior, but a modest creature, who dives again and again until it brings back what is needed. If you imagine a small animal determinedly diving in dark water, you can feel an echo of your own experiences. There have been times when you have gone down into your thoughts, into your memories, into your feelings, and brought something back, an insight, a decision, a story about yourself. Like the earth diver, you might have struggled, but eventually surfaced with something solid enough to stand on. That feeling that emerges when a jumbled worry turns into a clear plan is its own kind of creation myth inside you. There is a reason that scholars note such parallels across myths from distant cultures. Even though the societies that created these stories rarely communicated with each other, shared human experiences, looking at the sky, facing storms, seeing birth and death, seem to guide the imagination towards similar motifs. Resources that catalog these patterns point out that creation myths, flood stories, hero journeys, trickster tales, and end-of-world narratives appear again and again, suggesting that the human mind gravitates towards certain shapes when it tries to make sense of life. You might notice this in the patterns of your own personal stories. When you talk about how a relationship began, or how a career started, or how you moved to a new place, you often shape it into a narrative, a before, an event, an after. You might describe a chaotic period that eventually led to a new sense of order, or a crisis that turned into an opportunity. This resembles, in miniature, the same deep structure that ancient creation myths use. As the night around our imaginary fire deepens, the stories about beginnings gently give way to stories about those who inhabit the world that has been created. Once there is earth and sky, water and land, dawn and dusk, people have imagined invisible presences that inhabit these spaces. These presences can be gods, spirits, ancestors, or subtle forces that don't quite fit into a single definition. They become characters that carry qualities the culture finds important: wisdom, courage, fertility, justice, storm, sea, forest, and more. In ancient Greek stories, the pantheon of Olympian gods sits atop a high mountain, watching over and interacting with the world. Zeus, associated with lightning and authority, Athena with wisdom and strategy, Apollo with light and music, Demeter with crops and harvest. Each deity represents something more than a single human, yet they also behave in very human ways. They feel jealousy, love, frustration. They argue and reconcile, protect and punish. They are part of a large narrative web that explains not only weather and seasons but also human behavior, success and failure. Imagine, for a moment, Athena not as a distant, abstract deity but as a kind of quiet mental presence that appears whenever someone pauses to think through a problem carefully rather than rushing into action. You have felt something like that, the shift from panic to calm planning, from confusion to a sense of clarity. The ancient Greeks gave that shift a face and a name, making it easier to talk about and remember. Many cultures do something similar. In Norse traditions, there are gods who embody aspects of life in the north, Odin linked with wisdom, poetry, and the quest for knowledge, even at great cost, Thor associated with storms, protection, and the strength needed to stand against giants and chaos, Frigg connected with family and foresight. These beings move through sagas and myths, leaving traces in the world. Thunder as Thor''s hammer, ravens as Odin''s messengers. In Japanese Shinto traditions, there is a concept of kami, spirits or presences that inhabit natural phenomena, places, and even human-made objects. Mountains, rivers, old trees, and certain shrines are seen not just as things, but as homes or expressions of these spirits. This way of seeing encourages a gentle respect for the environment, a sense that you are not alone even when you stand by a quiet stream or walk under a canopy of leaves. The world becomes densely inhabited with invisible companions. If you think about your own experiences, you may have felt something similar without calling it by any special name. Maybe there is a particular tree you always notice on your walk, or a bend in the road that feels especially meaningful, or a room that seems to hold a quiet memory. You might talk about these places as if they had a personality, that friendly cafe copyright, that moody street, that calm room. This is your mind giving a kind of spirit substance to your surroundings, a practice that mythological traditions formalize and share through stories. In ancient Egypt, the concept of m'at represented truth, balance, and order, often depicted as a feather. The idea was that the world is maintained by a delicate balance between order and chaos, and the actions of gods, humans, and the forces of nature all interact to keep or disturb that balance. The myths tell of Ra'S daily journey across the sky and through the underworld at night, fighting chaos in the form of the serpent Apophis so that the sun can rise again. Every sunrise becomes part of a mythic pattern, not just a physical event. These stories allowed people to feel that they were part of a world where meaning existed. A storm was not just random weather, it might be a sign of a deity's mood, or a reminder of the forces at work behind the visible surface. A good harvest might reflect favor from a goddess of grain. A strange dream could be a message. Even if you do not share these beliefs literally, you can understand the feeling of wanting to link events into a pattern. Like the shift in atmosphere before a thunderstorm, you have noticed when life suddenly feels charged, as if something is about to change, and you instinctively look for a story to explain it. Psychologists who study myths, drawing from traditions of analysis that look for archetypes, have suggested that gods and spirits reflect recurring patterns in human experience: the wise guide, the nurturing mother, the trickster, the stern judge. These figures appear in stories around the world and seem to mirror inner roles in the psyche. Whether or not you accept any particular theory, you can notice how, when people describe their own inner lives, they often talk as if there were multiple voices or parts inside them: an inner critic, a playful side, a protective instinct. Ancient myths simply put these inner figures onto the sky, the mountains, the rivers, and the heavens. As you listen, you may start to feel a soft layering: outside you, myths about gods and spirits; inside you, your own familiar patterns of thought and feeling. The two resonate with each other, and that resonance can be calming. It can remind you that the way your mind works is not isolated or strange. It is part of a very old human tendency to turn experiences into stories and to give shape to the unseen. The night continues, and the fire remains steady. The stories of gods and spirits gradually make way for tales of beings who are closer to us: heroes, heroines, and legendary figures who move between the human and the divine. If the gods are like stars, distant but shining, heroes are like constellations drawn between them, figures that step down onto the landscape and into daily life. These heroes often begin as ordinary people or individuals with mixed heritage, part mortal, part divine. They set out on journeys, face trials, receive help, make mistakes, and eventually return with some form of wisdom or boon for their community. One well-known pattern that scholars have observed is the so-called hero's journey, a narrative structure where the main character receives a call to adventure, sometimes refuses it at first, then crosses a threshold into unfamiliar territory. There, they encounter mentors and allies, as well as challenges and enemies. After going through a central ordeal, they gain something valuable and make their way back home, changed by the experience. This pattern has been traced in many myths and is echoed in modern stories as well. In Greek mythology, Odysseus' long voyage home from war is one such journey, full of islands, storms, strange beings, and trials that test his cleverness and endurance. In Mesopotamian tradition, the hero Gilgamesh travels in search of the secret of immortality, driven by grief after the death of his close companion. In Polynesian stories, figures like Maui perform feats that rearrange the world,
drawing islands up from the sea or slowing the sun.
Though these characters live in vastly different landscapes, their journeys share the same deep curve, leaving what is familiar, confronting something difficult, returning changed. You have felt this curve in your own life. Perhaps you have left a job, a city, a relationship, or even a way of seeing yourself, stepping into something unknown. You may have encountered both challenges and unexpected support. After some time, you found yourself looking back, realizing that the person who began that journey is not exactly the same as the one who stands here now. Even though your story may be quieter than an ancient epic, it follows the same contour. As these reflections settle in your mind, you can allow your body to grow even heavier, supported fully by whatever you are lying or sitting on. You might notice points of contact where gravity gently pulls you downward, and feel a sense of being held up, much like a boat resting on calm water. You are part of a long lineage of listeners who have let their eyes close while stories of gods, heroes, and mysteries flow around them like a warm current. In the distance of your imagination, the fire's glow softens. Voices that once spoke in unknown tongues have merged into a single, steady narrator's tone that reassures you there is nothing you need to do right now except breathe and listen, or not listen, as you prefer. The myths will continue whether you are fully awake, half asleep, or drifting completely into dreams, just as the stars continue their slow paths across the sky whether or not anyone is watching. The heroes of ancient myths often carried with them not just weapons or tools, but a sense of purpose that was larger than their own survival. They were sent on quests that would benefit their people, restore balance, or retrieve something precious that had been lost. In many traditions, these journeys were not simply about physical travel but about inner transformation, about learning something essential that could only be discovered by leaving the familiar world behind and venturing into the unknown.
Consider the figure of Orpheus from Greek tradition, a musician whose songs could charm even stones and wild beasts. When his beloved Eurydice died, he descended into the underworld to bring her back, armed only with his lyre and his voice. The gods of the dead were moved by his music and agreed to let Eurydice follow him back to the world of the living, on one condition: he must not look back at her until they had both reached the surface.
In his anxiety and longing, he turned to check if she was still there, and she vanished back into the shadows forever. This story is not about a battle won or a monster slain, it is about love, loss, trust, and the unbearable difficulty of moving forward without looking back. You have known moments like this, perhaps not in such dramatic terms, but in the emotional shape of the experience. There have been times when you were asked to trust a process, to keep moving forward without checking, without controlling, without knowing for certain that things would work out. The temptation to look back, to second guess, to reach for reassurance can be overwhelming.
Orpheus' story gives that feeling a mythic weight, turning a private struggle into something shared across centuries. In the epic traditions of Mesopotamia, the hero Gilgamesh begins his story as a powerful but restless king. After the death of his companion Enkidu, Gilgamesh is struck by the reality of mortality and sets out on a quest to find eternal life.
He travels to the ends of the earth, crosses waters of death, and meets an immortal figure who survived a great flood. He learns that immortality is not available to humans, but he is offered a plant that can restore youth.
On his journey home, a serpent steals the plant while Gilgamesh bathes, and he returns to his city empty-handed, yet somehow wiser.
The story suggests that the quest itself, and the acceptance of human limits, is what transforms him. This theme of seeking something and returning with something different than what you expected appears again and again. You may have set out to achieve a specific goal, a degree, a relationship, a career milestone, and found that what you actually gained was not the thing itself but a deeper understanding of who you are and what matters to you. The myths honor this pattern, showing that the journey is rarely about the object, it is about the person who walks the path. In Celtic traditions, there are tales of warriors and seekers who venture into the otherworld, a realm that exists alongside the human world but is hidden, accessible only through certain mounds, lakes, or mists. Time moves differently there. A night in the otherworld might be years in the mortal realm. Those who return often bring back gifts or curses, and they are never quite the same. The boundary between worlds is thin and permeable, suggesting that transformation is always close at hand if you know where to look. You might think of your own moments of transition as thin places, times when the usual rules seemed suspended. Perhaps it was a period of illness, a long journey, a profound conversation, or even a vivid dream that stayed with you for days. In those moments, you stepped briefly into a different way of being, and when you returned to ordinary life, something had shifted. The myths give you permission to see those experiences as meaningful, as small journeys into your own otherworld. The hero's journey is not always solitary. Many myths include companions, mentors, and guides who appear at crucial moments. In some traditions, animals serve as helpers, a wise bird, a loyal horse, a clever fox. In others, an elder figure offers advice or a magical object. These helpers remind the hero, and remind you, that no one truly walks alone. Even in your quietest struggles, there have been voices, memories, or small kindnesses that appeared just when you needed them, like a lantern lit in the dark. As the myths of heroes and their quests continue to unfold in your mind, you may notice that your breathing has become slower, deeper, more rhythmic. The stories are no longer demanding your full attention, they are simply there, like the sound of distant waves or the rustle of leaves. You can let them wash over you, carrying you gently towards sleep, knowing that the narrative will continue whether you are listening closely or drifting away. The fire in your imagination has burned down to glowing embers now, and the night sky above is vast and clear. Somewhere in the distance, you hear the faint call of a night bird, a sound that feels both ancient and immediate. The myths are beginning to shift again, moving from individual heroes to larger stories, stories that involve entire communities, whole civilizations, and the forces of nature that can reshape the world in a single catastrophic event. Flood myths are among the most widespread stories in human culture.
Myth scholars have documented versions in cultures on every inhabited continent, from ancient Mesopotamia to the Maya, from the Hebrew Bible to indigenous Australian traditions.
The details vary, but the core pattern is remarkably consistent. Humanity has become corrupt, chaotic, or simply too numerous. A divine power decides to cleanse the world with water. A chosen individual or family is warned and survives by building a vessel or climbing a mountain. After the waters recede, the world begins again, purified and renewed.
In the ancient Mesopotamia epic of Gilgamesh, there is a character named Utnapishtim who tells Gilgamesh about a great flood sent by the gods. Utnapishtim was warned by one of the gods to build a boat and take aboard his family and representatives of all living creatures. The flood came, covering the earth, and when it finally subsided, Utnapishtim' boat came to rest on a mountain.
He released birds to test whether the waters had receded, and eventually, he and his family emerged to repopulate the world. This story, recorded on clay tablets thousands of years ago, shares striking similarities with the biblical story of Noah and with flood myths from other cultures. Why do so many cultures tell this story? One reason may be that floods are real and devastating.
Ancient peoples living near rivers, the Tigris and Euphrates, the Nile, the Indus, the Yellow River, experienced seasonal flooding that could be both life-giving and destructive.
A particularly severe flood could wipe out entire settlements, leaving only those who lived on higher ground or who had boats. These traumatic events would be remembered and retold, gradually taking on mythic dimensions as they were passed down through generations. But flood myths also serve a deeper psychological and cultural function. They offer a narrative of reset, a way to imagine that no matter how broken or chaotic things become, there is always the possibility of starting over. The world can be washed clean, and a new beginning can emerge from the ruins of the old. This is a comforting thought, especially in times of crisis or despair. It suggests that destruction is not the end, but a necessary stage in a larger cycle of renewal. You have experienced smaller versions of this pattern in your own life. Perhaps you have gone through a period of upheaval, a breakup, a job loss, a move, an illness, that felt like everything was being swept away. In the midst of it, you may have felt lost and moored, as if the familiar landmarks of your life had disappeared beneath rising waters. But eventually, the waters receded. You found solid ground again. You rebuilt, not exactly as things were before, but in a new configuration that took into account what you had learned and what you had lost. The flood myths honor this process. They say that it is natural for worlds to end and begin again, that loss and renewal are woven into the fabric of existence. They also emphasize the importance of memory and continuity. The survivors carry seeds, animals, stories, and knowledge into the new world, ensuring that not everything is lost. In the same way, you carry forward the lessons and memories of your past, even as you step into new chapters of your life. Alongside flood myths, many cultures tell stories of lost cities and vanished civilizations, places that once thrived but are now gone, swallowed by the sea, buried by sand, or hidden in mist.
The most famous of these is Atlantis, described by the Greek philosopher Plato as a powerful island nation that sank into the ocean in a single day and night of catastrophe. Plato may have intended Atlantis as a philosophical allegory about hubris and the dangers of imperial ambition, but the story took on a life of its own, inspiring countless searches, theories, and retellings. The appeal of Atlantis and similar lost world myths lies in their melancholy beauty.
They speak to a deep human intuition that the past holds wonders we can no longer access, that there were golden ages now lost to time. This feeling is not entirely irrational. Civilizations do rise and fall, cities are abandoned, languages die out, and knowledge is forgotten. Archaeologists continue to uncover the remains of cultures that were once vibrant and are now silent, their stories pieced together from fragments of pottery, inscriptions, and ruins. In Celtic tradition, there is the legend of Wise, a city on the coast of Brittany that was protected from the sea by a great dike. The king's daughter, in some versions of the story, opened the floodgates, and the city was drowned. Fishermen are said to hear the bells of Wise ringing beneath the waves on quiet nights.
In Welsh mythology, there is Cantr'Gwalod, a fertile lowland kingdom that was flooded when a guardian failed to close the sluice gates.
These stories blend historical memory of coastal flooding with a sense of loss and longing for what once was.
You may have your own personal Atlantis, a place or time in your life that feels lost and unreachable.
Perhaps it is a childhood home that no longer exists, a friendship that faded, a version of yourself that you can barely remember. These lost places live on in memory, idealized and softened by time, much like the mythical cities that sank beneath the waves. The myths give you a way to hold that loss gently, to acknowledge that it is natural to grieve for what is gone while also recognizing that the present moment is where you actually live. The theme of vanished worlds also appears in myths about great catastrophes, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, droughts, and plagues.
The eruption of Thera in the Aegean, which devastated the Minoan civilization, may have contributed to the Atlantis legend.
The collapse of the Bronze Age civilizations around the Mediterranean, caused by a combination of factors including climate change, invasion, and internal strife, left echoes in myth and memory. These stories remind us that stability is always temporary, that the ground beneath our feet is not as solid as it seems. Yet there is something strangely soothing about these myths when heard in the right frame of mind. They normalize change and loss. They say that even the mightiest cities fall, even the greatest empires crumble, and that this is simply part of the rhythm of time. In a way, this takes the pressure off. You do not have to hold everything together forever. You do not have to prevent all loss. You are part of a much larger pattern, one that includes both building and letting go, both creation and dissolution. As you listen to these stories of floods and lost cities, you might feel a gentle melancholy settling over you, but it is not a heavy or oppressive feeling. It is more like the soft sadness of watching the sun set, knowing that night is coming but also knowing that the sun will rise again. The myths hold space for grief and for hope at the same time, and in that space, you can rest. The night deepens further, and the stories begin to shift once more. We move now from the grand narratives of gods, heroes, and cataclysms to the quieter, more mysterious corners of mythology, the cultural mysteries, the unexplained sights, the creatures that may or may not exist, the rituals whose meanings have been partly forgotten. These are the stories that linger at the edges of knowledge, the ones that resist easy explanation and invite wonder. Around the world, there are ancient structures whose purposes are still debated.
Stonehenge in England, the Pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica, the Moai statues of Easter Island, the Nazca lions in Peru. These sites inspire awe and curiosity.
How were they built? Why were they built? What did they mean to the people who created them? Scholars offer theories based on archaeology, astronomy, and anthropology, but much remains uncertain. The gaps in our knowledge become spaces where imagination and myth can flourish. These sites often carry mythic explanations. Local legends might say that giants built the stones, or that the statues walked into place, or that the lines were drawn by gods or visitors from the sky. While modern archaeology provides more grounded explanations, human ingenuity, labor, and cultural significance, the mythic explanations reveal something important about how people relate to mystery. When faced with something we cannot fully understand, we tell stories. We fill the silence with narrative, because narrative gives us a way to approach the unknown without fear. You have done this in your own life. When something happens that you cannot explain, a coincidence, a dream, a sudden change of fortune, you might find yourself constructing a story around it. Maybe you call it fate, or luck, or a sign. Maybe you see a pattern where others see randomness. This is not a failure of logic, it is a deeply human way of making meaning, a feeling that the world is not entirely indifferent to your existence. Mythic creatures also inhabit this space of mystery and wonder. Dragons, griffins, phoenixes, unicorns, sea serpents, thunderbirds, and countless other beings populate the myths of cultures around the world. Some of these creatures may have been inspired by real animals, misunderstood fossils, or natural phenomena. Others seem to be pure imagination, symbols of qualities like power, wisdom, transformation, or danger. The dragon, for example, appears in both Western and Eastern traditions, but with different meanings. In European myths, dragons are often depicted as dangerous, hoarding treasure, and needing to be slain by heroes. In Chinese mythology, dragons are generally benevolent, associated with water, weather, and imperial authority. Despite these differences, the dragon as a symbol of immense power and mystery is nearly universal. It represents something that is both fascinating and frightening, something that must be respected. You might not believe in literal dragons, but you have encountered dragon-like challenges in your life, obstacles that seemed insurmountable, fears that loomed large, situations that required courage and resourcefulness. The myths give you a language for these experiences. They say that facing the dragon is part of the hero's path, and that on the other side of fear is often treasure, not gold, but self-knowledge, confidence, and growth. Trickster figures also occupy a special place in mythology. These are characters who defy rules, play pranks, and disrupt the social order, often with ambiguous motives.
Loki in Norse mythology, Anansi the spider in West African folklore, Coyote in many Native American traditions, Hermes in Greek myths. All of these figures embody cleverness, chaos, and transformation.
They are neither purely good nor purely evil, they are agents of change, reminding us that the world is not always orderly or predictable. Tricksters often bring important gifts to humanity, even if their methods are questionable.
Prometheus, a trickster-like figure in Greek mythology, stole fire from the gods and gave it to humans, enabling civilization but also earning severe punishment. Maui, in Polynesian myths, slowed the sun and fished up islands, using wit and audacity to reshape the world.
These stories suggest that progress and innovation often come from those who are willing to break the rules, to question authority, to take risks. In your own life, you may have a bit of the trickster in you. Perhaps there have been times when you bent the rules, took a shortcut, or approached a problem from an unexpected angle. Maybe you have questioned traditions that others accepted without thinking. The trickster energy is about flexibility, creativity, and the refusal to be boxed in by convention. It can be disruptive, but it can also be liberating. As the myths continue to unfold, you may notice that your sense of time has become fluid. Minutes might feel like hours, or hours like minutes. This is the quality of mythic time, the sense that you are no longer bound by the clock but are moving through a different kind of duration, one that is measured by the rhythm of breath and the drift of thought rather than by seconds and minutes. In this space, past and present blur together. The ancient storytellers and the modern listener are not so far apart. You are all sitting around the same fire, under the same stars, asking the same questions. The myths also remind us that not everything needs to be explained. Some mysteries are meant to remain mysterious. Some questions do not have answers, or at least not answers that can be put into words. This can be frustrating in daily life, where we are trained to seek clarity and certainty. But in the liminal space between waking and sleeping, it can be a relief. You do not have to solve anything right now. You do not have to understand everything. You can simply let the stories wash over you, like waves on a shore, each one arriving and then receding, leaving behind a trace of salt and foam. The fire has burned down to almost nothing now, just a faint glow in the darkness. The stars above are impossibly bright, and the air is cool and still. You are wrapped in a blanket of night, held gently by the earth beneath you and the sky above. The myths have done their work, weaving a soft net of stories around you, a net that does not trap but supports, that does not confine but cradles. In this quiet moment, you might reflect on the fact that myths are not just ancient relics. They are living patterns that continue to shape how we see the world and ourselves. Every time you watch a movie about a hero's journey, every time you read a fantasy novel with dragons and quests, every time you tell a story about your own life that has a beginning, a middle, and an end, you are participating in the mythic tradition. You are adding your voice to a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years. Modern storytelling is full of mythic echoes. Superhero films draw on the archetype of the hero with extraordinary powers who must choose between personal desire and the greater good. Science fiction explores creation myths and apocalyptic scenarios in futuristic settings. Fantasy literature builds entire worlds with their own gods, magic, and legends. Even in everyday conversation, we use mythic language. We talk about someone's Achilles heel, we describe a difficult task as Herculean, we refer to a confusing situation as opening Pandora's box. The myths are still with us, woven into the fabric of our language and imagination. This continuity is comforting. It means that the questions you are asking, the struggles you are facing, the joys you are experiencing, all of these have been felt before. You are not alone in your journey. You are part of a long lineage of human beings who have looked up at the stars, wondered about their place in the universe, and told stories to make sense of it all. As you continue to drift, you might also notice that the myths are becoming less distinct, their edges softening and blending together. A Greek god merges with a Norse giant, a flood story flows into a creation myth, a hero's journey becomes your own journey. This is natural. In the space between waking and sleeping, boundaries dissolve. The stories are no longer separate from you, they are part of the landscape of your mind, part of the dream you are beginning to enter. The night has reached that deep, still hour when even the wind seems to be resting. If you were to open your eyes, you might see only darkness, but it is not an empty darkness. It is full of presence, full of the quiet breathing of the world around you. The myths continue to drift through this space like slow-moving clouds, each one carrying images and feelings that you do not need to hold onto. They pass through you, leaving only a gentle impression, like footprints in sand that the tide will soon smooth away. We have traveled through creation myths, through the realms of gods and spirits, through the journeys of heroes, and through stories of floods and lost worlds. Now, as the night deepens even further, we turn our attention to the myths that speak of endings, transformations, and the cycles that govern existence. These are stories about death and rebirth, about seasons and ages, about the idea that nothing is truly permanent, and that every ending contains within it the seed of a new beginning. Many cultures have myths about the end of the world, often called apocalypse or eschatology in scholarly terms. These are not necessarily stories of final destruction, but rather narratives about the end of one age and the beginning of another. They acknowledge that the world as we know it will not last forever, but they also suggest that something new will emerge from the ruins. This pattern of death and rebirth is deeply embedded in the natural world, the cycle of seasons, the phases of the moon, the daily journey of the sun from dawn to dusk and back to dawn again.
In Norse mythology, there is a prophecy called Ragnarok, which describes a series of events leading to the end of the world.
There will be a great winter that lasts for 3 years, followed by battles between gods and giants, the breaking of bonds that held monsters at bay, and ultimately a catastrophic conflict in which many gods and heroes will die.
The world tree Yggdrasil will tremble, the sky will darken, and the earth will sink into the sea.
But this is not the absolute end. After the destruction, the earth will rise again from the water, green and fertile. A few gods will survive, and 2 human beings will emerge from hiding to repopulate the world. The cycle begins anew.
This vision of Ragnarok is both terrifying and strangely comforting.
It says that even the gods are not immortal, that even the greatest powers must eventually face their end. But it also says that life is resilient, that renewal is always possible.
The world that emerges after Ragnarok is described as more beautiful and peaceful than the one that came before, suggesting that destruction can clear the way for something better.
You have experienced smaller versions of this cycle in your own life. There have been times when something you relied on came to an end, a job, a relationship, a phase of life, a belief about yourself or the world. In the moment, it may have felt like everything was falling apart, like the ground was disappearing beneath your feet. But with time, you discovered that the ending made space for something new. You rebuilt, you adapted, you grew.
The myth of Ragnarok gives that experience a cosmic scale, reminding you that endings are not failures, they are part of the natural rhythm of existence. In Hindu cosmology, time is understood as cyclical, moving through vast ages called yugas. There are 4 yugas in a cycle, each one progressively shorter and more degraded than the last, until the final age, the Kali space yuga, ends in dissolution.
Then the cycle begins again with a new golden age.
This pattern repeats endlessly, with the universe being created, sustained, and destroyed by the gods Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in an eternal dance.
The scale of these cycles is immense, measured in millions or billions of years, far beyond human comprehension. This cyclical view of time contrasts with the linear view that dominates much of Western thought, where history moves from a beginning toward an end, from creation toward a final judgment or culmination. But the cyclical view has its own wisdom. It suggests that there is no ultimate endpoint, no final victory or defeat, only an ongoing process of transformation. It takes the pressure off any single moment or event, placing it within a much larger context. Your struggles and triumphs are real and meaningful, but they are also just one small turn in an infinite wheel.
The Aztec civilization of Mesoamerica also had a cyclical cosmology, believing that the world had been created and destroyed multiple times.
According to their myths, there had been 4 previous worlds, or suns, each one ending in a different catastrophe: jaguars devouring humanity, hurricanes, fiery rain, and floods. The current world, the 5th sun, was created through the sacrifice of gods who threw themselves into a fire to become the sun and moon.
This act of sacrifice was seen as necessary to keep the cosmos in motion, and the Aztecs believed that they had a responsibility to reciprocate through ritual offerings, ensuring that the sun would continue to rise each day.
These myths reflect a worldview in which existence is precarious, requiring constant effort and attention to maintain. The universe is not a stable, self-sustaining machine. It is a living process that depends on the participation of both gods and humans. This can feel like a heavy burden, but it also gives life a sense of purpose and significance. Every action, every ritual, every offering is part of the work of keeping the world alive. You might not think of your daily life in such dramatic terms, but there is a truth here that resonates. The world you inhabit, your relationships, your work, your sense of meaning, does require ongoing effort and attention. It is not something that, once established, will simply continue on its own. You have to show up, day after day, making small choices and small sacrifices, tending to the things that matter. The myths honor this labor, giving it a sacred dimension. As the stories of endings and renewals continue to unfold, you may feel a deepening sense of calm. There is something restful about the idea that you do not have to hold everything together forever, that the cycles will continue with or without your constant vigilance. You can let go, at least for now, and trust that the world will still be here when you wake. The sun will rise, the seasons will turn, and the stories will continue to be told. Myths also speak to the personal transformations that occur within a single lifetime. Many cultures have initiation rituals that mark the transition from one stage of life to another, from childhood to adulthood, from single to married, from layperson to priest or shaman. These rituals often involve symbolic death and rebirth, a shedding of the old identity and the assumption of a new one. The initiate may be secluded, undergo trials, receive new knowledge, and emerge with a new name or status. In some indigenous Australian traditions, young men undergoing initiation are taken away from the community and subjected to physical and psychological challenges. They are taught sacred stories and songs, shown secret sites, and given knowledge that is not available to the uninitiated. When they return, they are no longer boys, they are men, with new responsibilities and a new place in the social order. The ritual marks a clear boundary between before and after, making the transition visible and meaningful. You have gone through your own initiations, even if they were not formalized in ritual. The first time you left home, the first time you faced a major loss, the first time you took on a significant responsibility, These were moments when you crossed a threshold and became someone new. The myths and rituals give shape to these transitions, acknowledging that they are not trivial but are profound shifts in identity and understanding. The symbolism of death and rebirth also appears in myths about gods who die and return.
In ancient Egypt, the god Osiris was killed by his brother Set, dismembered and scattered. His wife Isis gathered the pieces and reassembled him, and he was resurrected to become the lord of the underworld and a symbol of eternal life. In Greek mythology, Persephone descends into the underworld for part of each year, and her return marks the arrival of spring.
In Christian tradition, the death and resurrection of Jesus is the central event, symbolizing victory over death and the promise of new life. These myths speak to a deep human hope that death is not the end, that something of us continues, that loss can be transformed into renewal. Whether understood literally or metaphorically, they offer comfort in the face of mortality. They say that the cycles of nature, the seed that falls into the ground and sprouts, the moon that wanes and waxes, the sun that sets and rises, are patterns we can trust, patterns that include us. As you listen, you might feel your own boundaries softening. The distinction between waking and sleeping, between self and story, between past and present, becomes less clear. This is the gift of myth. It allows you to step outside of ordinary time and ordinary identity, to experience yourself as part of something larger and older. You are not just an individual with a specific name and history, you are also a participant in the great cycles of existence, a temporary expression of the same life force that has animated countless beings before you and will animate countless beings after you. The myths now begin to turn toward the mysteries that remain unsolved, the questions that linger at the edges of human knowledge. These are the stories that do not offer clear answers, but instead invite contemplation and wonder. They are about the spaces between the known and the unknown, the liminal zones where anything seems possible. In many traditions, there are places that are considered sacred or magical, thresholds between the human world and the realm of spirits or gods. These might be caves, springs, groves, mountains, or crossroads. They are places where the veil is thin, where it is easier to encounter the numinous, the uncanny, the divine. Pilgrims travel to these sites seeking healing, guidance, or transformation. Even today, certain places carry this quality: ancient temples, natural wonders, sites of historical significance. People visit them not just to see them, but to feel something, to touch a deeper layer of reality. You have your own sacred places, even if you do not call them that. Perhaps there is a spot in nature where you feel especially peaceful, or a room in your home where you go to think, or a street corner that holds a powerful memory. These places are not sacred because of any inherent magic, but because of the meaning you have invested in them, the experiences you have had there. The myths remind you that this is a valid and ancient way of relating to the world, that places can hold stories and energies that go beyond their physical form. Mysteries also surround certain objects and symbols. The Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, the philosopher's stone, the fountain of youth. These are objects that appear in myths and legends, often as the goal of a quest. They represent ultimate knowledge, ultimate power, ultimate healing, or ultimate transformation. Whether they ever existed in a literal sense is less important than what they symbolize: the human longing for something that will complete us, that will answer all our questions, that will make us whole. In Arthurian legend, the quest for the Holy Grail is undertaken by the Knights of the Round Table.
Only the purest knight, Galahad, is able to achieve the Grail, while others fail or are driven mad by the attempt.
The Grail is often interpreted as a symbol of spiritual enlightenment or divine grace, something that cannot be grasped through force or cleverness but only through purity of heart and intention. The quest itself is more important than the object. It is a journey of self-discovery and moral testing. You have pursued your own grails, your own ultimate goals. Perhaps it was a career achievement, a perfect relationship, a state of happiness or peace. And perhaps you discovered, as many do, that the achievement of the goal did not bring the fulfillment you expected. The real value was in the pursuit, in the person you became along the way, in the lessons you learned. The myths prepare you for this realization, suggesting that the treasure is not a thing but a transformation. There are also myths about forbidden knowledge, about boundaries that should not be crossed.
The story of Pandora in Greek mythology tells of a woman who was given a jar and told not to open it.
Overcome by curiosity, she opened it, and all the evils of the world flew out: disease, death, envy, hatred. Only hope remained inside. This story has been interpreted in many ways, but one reading is that it is about the consequences of curiosity, the dangers of seeking knowledge that we are not ready to handle. Yet curiosity is also what drives human progress. Every scientific discovery, every technological innovation, every expansion of understanding begins with someone asking a question and refusing to accept the easy answer. The tension between the desire to know and the fear of what we might discover is a central theme in many myths. It reflects a real dilemma: how do we balance the pursuit of knowledge with wisdom and caution? You have felt this tension in your own life. There have been times when you wanted to know something, the truth about a situation, the contents of a private conversation, the outcome of a decision, but you also feared what you might learn. Sometimes you chose to look, and sometimes you chose to leave the box closed. The myths do not tell you which choice is right. They simply acknowledge that the choice is difficult and that both paths have consequences. As the night continues its slow passage, the myths begin to blend with your own thoughts and memories. A story about a hero's journey reminds you of a time when you took a risk. A tale of a lost city evokes a place from your past that you can no longer visit. A flood myth resonates with a period of upheaval in your life. The boundaries between the ancient stories and your personal story dissolve, and you realize that they are not separate. The myths are templates, patterns, archetypes that your own life follows, consciously or unconsciously. This realization can be both humbling and empowering. It is humbling because it suggests that your experiences, as unique as they feel, are part of a much larger pattern that has repeated countless times. But it is also empowering because it means that you are not alone, that others have walked this path before you, and that the wisdom they gained is available to you through the stories they left behind. The myths also remind you that life is not a problem to be solved but a mystery to be lived. In our modern world, we are trained to seek solutions, to fix what is broken, to optimize and improve. But some things cannot be fixed or optimized. Some questions do not have answers. Some losses cannot be recovered. The myths teach acceptance, not in the sense of passive resignation, but in the sense of acknowledging what is, of making peace with uncertainty and impermanence. There is a Zen story, not ancient but in the spirit of myth, about a farmer whose horse runs away. His neighbors say, "What bad luck?" The farmer replies, "Maybe." The next day, the horse returns with several wild horses. The neighbors say, "What good luck?" The farmer replies, "Maybe." His son tries to tame one of the wild horses and breaks his leg. "What bad luck," say the neighbors. "Maybe," says the farmer. Then soldiers come to conscript young men for war, but the son is spared because of his injury. "What good luck," say the neighbors. "Maybe," says the farmer. The story goes on, illustrating that we cannot know whether an event is fortunate or unfortunate because we cannot see the whole pattern, the full context, the ultimate outcome. This perspective is deeply mythic. It asks you to hold your judgments lightly, to recognize that the story is not finished, that what seems like an ending might be a beginning, that what seems like a disaster might be a hidden blessing. It invites you to trust the process, to have faith that there is a larger pattern at work, even when you cannot see it. As you rest in this space of not knowing, you may feel a profound relaxation. The need to figure everything out, to control every outcome, to understand every mystery, all of that can be set aside, at least for now. You can simply be here, breathing, listening, drifting. The myths have done their work, weaving a soft cocoon of story around you, a space where you are safe to let go. The fire is now completely dark, just a faint warmth in the ashes. The stars above have wheeled slowly across the sky, marking the passage of hours, though time has lost its usual meaning. You are suspended in a timeless moment, a moment that feels both ancient and immediate, both personal and universal. The myths are no longer something you are listening to, they are something you are inside of, something you are part of. In this deep stillness, you might sense the presence of all the storytellers who have come before you, all the listeners who have sat where you are sitting, all the voices that have spoken these words or words like them. They are not ghosts or spirits in any literal sense, but they are present in the stories themselves, in the patterns and images that have been passed down through generations. When you listen to a myth, you are joining a conversation that has been going on for thousands of years, adding your own understanding, your own interpretation, your own experience to the collective wisdom. The myths also connect you to the natural world in a way that modern life often does not. They remind you that you are not separate from nature but part of it, subject to the same cycles of growth and decay, birth and death, light and darkness. The gods and spirits of myth are often personifications of natural forces: the sun, the moon, the storm, the sea, the forest, the harvest. By telling stories about these forces, ancient peoples were acknowledging their dependence on them, their awe of them, their desire to live in harmony with them. You can feel this connection even now, even if you are indoors, even if you are far from wilderness. Your body is still governed by circadian rhythms, by the need for food and water, by the cycle of waking and sleeping. Your moods are still influenced by the weather, by the seasons, by the amount of light in the sky. You are still, in a very real sense, an animal, a creature of the earth, shaped by millions of years of evolution. The myths honor this reality, refusing to let you forget that you are part of the web of life, not above it or outside it. As the myths continue to drift through your awareness, you may notice that they are becoming quieter, softer, more like whispers than voices. The images are fading, the stories are blending together, and you are sinking deeper into a state of rest. This is natural. The myths have served their purpose, guiding you gently from waking consciousness toward the threshold of sleep. Now they are stepping back, allowing you to cross that threshold on your own, in your own time. The threshold between waking and sleeping is a place you have crossed countless times, yet it remains mysterious. You cannot force yourself across it, you can only allow it to happen. The myths understand this. They do not demand your attention or insist that you stay alert. They are content to fade into the background, to become part of the texture of the night, like the distant sound of wind or the barely perceptible movement of shadows. You are free to let them go, to let your mind wander where it will, to follow the gentle current that is pulling you deeper into rest. In this liminal space, the myths take on a dreamlike quality. A hero's face might blur into someone you once knew. A lost city might resemble a place from your childhood. A flood might feel like a memory of tears you once cried. The stories are no longer external, they have become internal, woven into the fabric of your own psyche. This is how myths have always worked. They are not meant to be observed from a distance but to be inhabited, to be lived from the inside. There is a particular kind of myth that speaks directly to this threshold state, stories about sleep itself, about dreams, and about the boundary between the conscious and unconscious mind. In many traditions, sleep is not seen as mere absence of waking, but as a journey into another realm, a place where the soul travels, where messages are received, where the future can be glimpsed. Dreams were often considered prophetic or divine, communications from gods or ancestors that required interpretation and attention.
In ancient Greece, there were temples dedicated to Asclepius, the god of healing, where people would come seeking cures for their ailments.
The practice, known as incubation, involved sleeping in the temple precinct and waiting for the god to appear in a dream and offer guidance or healing. Priests would interpret the dreams, and many people reported being cured or receiving valuable insights. Whether the healing came from divine intervention, the power of suggestion, or the restorative effects of rest and ritual, the practice acknowledged that sleep is a time when transformation can occur, when the mind and body can repair themselves in ways that are not fully understood. You have had your own experiences of waking from sleep with a problem solved, a decision made, or a new perspective on a situation that had seemed intractable the day before. The phrase, "sleep on it," reflects an ancient wisdom that the unconscious mind continues to work even when the conscious mind has let go. The myths honor this process, suggesting that sleep is not a passive state but an active one, a time when deeper layers of the self can emerge and speak. Dreams themselves are a kind of personal mythology. They use symbols, narratives, and characters to express things that are difficult to articulate in waking language. A dream might present you with a journey, a test, a meeting with a strange figure, or a landscape that feels both familiar and alien. These are the same elements that appear in myths, and for the same reason, they are the language of the unconscious, the way the deeper parts of the psyche communicate with the conscious mind.
Carl Jung, the psychologist who studied myths and dreams extensively, suggested that certain images and patterns, archetypes, appear universally in human consciousness.
The hero, the shadow, the wise old man, the great mother, the trickster, these figures show up in myths around the world and also in individual dreams. Jung believed that by engaging with these archetypes, whether through myths or dreams, people could achieve greater self-understanding and psychological integration. Whether or not you accept Jung's specific theories, the observation that myths and dreams share a common language is difficult to dispute. As you drift closer to sleep, your own dreams may begin to stir. You might see fleeting images, hear fragments of voices, feel sensations that have no clear source. These are the first whispers of the dream world, the signs that you are crossing the threshold. The myths bless this crossing, accompanying you to the edge and then stepping back, allowing you to continue on your own. They have been your guides through the night, and now they release you gently into the care of your own unconscious. There is something deeply comforting about the idea that sleep is not an emptiness but a fullness, not a void but a realm. When you close your eyes, you are not disappearing, you are traveling. You are entering a space that is as real, in its own way, as the waking world, a space where different rules apply, where time is fluid, where impossible things can happen. The myths have always known this. They have always treated the night, the dream, the underworld, the otherworld, as places you can go, not as mere absences of day and consciousness. In some traditions, there are myths about the land of the dead, the afterlife, the place where souls go when the body dies.
These realms are often described in vivid detail: the Greek underworld with its rivers and judges, the Egyptian Duat with its trials and transformations, the Norse Hell or Valhalla, the Christian heaven and hell, the Buddhist Bardos, the indigenous spirit worlds.
These myths serve many purposes. They offer comfort about what happens after death. They reinforce moral codes, they provide a sense of continuity, but they also reflect the human intuition that consciousness does not simply switch off, that there are layers and depths to existence that we do not fully perceive in ordinary waking life. You do not need to believe in any literal afterlife to appreciate the psychological truth of these myths. They acknowledge that there are parts of your experience that are hidden, submerged, not immediately accessible. Just as the underworld is beneath the earth, your unconscious is beneath your conscious awareness, and it contains things you have forgotten, things you have repressed, things you have not yet discovered. The journey into the underworld, a common mythic motif, can be understood as a journey into the self, into the depths of your own psyche.
Orpheus descended into the underworld to retrieve his lost love. Inanna, the Sumerian goddess, descended through 7 gates, shedding her garments and powers at each one, until she was naked and powerless, only to be killed and then resurrected. Persephone was abducted into the underworld and became its queen, spending part of each year below and part above.
These stories are about loss, grief, transformation, and return. They say that sometimes you have to go down, into the dark, into the difficult places, in order to retrieve something valuable or to become who you need to be. You have made your own descents. There have been times when you felt lost, when you could not see a way forward, when everything seemed dark and heavy. Those were your underworld journeys. And if you are here now, listening to this, then you have also made the return. You have come back up, perhaps changed, perhaps carrying something new, perhaps having left something behind. The myths validate this experience, giving it shape and meaning, assuring you that the descent is part of the pattern, not a deviation from it. As the night reaches its deepest point, the myths begin to speak of return, of dawn, of the promise that darkness is not permanent. Every culture has myths about the sun, about its daily journey across the sky and its nightly journey through the underworld or across the ocean. The sun is perhaps the most universal symbol in mythology, representing life, warmth, consciousness, and the triumph of light over darkness. Its daily return is a reassurance that no matter how long the night, morning will come.
In ancient Egypt, the sun god Ra was believed to travel through the underworld each night, battling the serpent Apophis to ensure that dawn would arrive. In Japanese mythology, the sun goddess Amaterasu once hid in a cave, plunging the world into darkness, until the other gods lured her out with a mirror and a dance.
In many indigenous traditions, there are stories about how the sun was captured or stolen and then released, or how the length of day and night was negotiated. These myths reflect the anxiety that the sun might not return, a fear that would have been very real for ancient peoples who depended on its light and warmth for survival. You carry a version of this anxiety in your own life. There are times when you fear that the difficult period you are in will never end, that the sadness or confusion or pain will last forever. The myths remind you that this is not true. The sun always rises. The seasons always turn. The cycles continue. This is not empty optimism, it is observation of the natural world, a trust in the patterns that have held for as long as life has existed on this planet. As you lie here in the darkness, you can trust that morning will come. You do not need to worry about it or work toward it. It will arrive on its own, in its own time, as it always has. And when it does, you will wake, and the night will be behind you, and you will carry forward whatever rest and renewal you have found in these quiet hours. The myths have accompanied you through the night, and they will be there in the morning too, woven into the stories you tell, the dreams you remember, the ways you make sense of your life. There is one more layer to the myths, one more gift they offer, and that is the sense of continuity, of connection across time and space. When you listen to a myth that was first told thousands of years ago, you are touching something that has been touched by countless others. The story has been shaped by many voices, adapted to many contexts, translated into many languages, but its core remains. It is a thread that runs through human history, connecting you to people you will never meet, people who lived in times and places you can barely imagine, yet who felt the same emotions, asked the same questions, and sought the same comfort that you seek now. This is not a small thing. In a world that often feels fragmented and isolating, where change happens so rapidly that it is hard to find stable ground, the myths offer a sense of rootedness. They say that you are part of a story that is much larger and older than you, a story that will continue long after you are gone. This can be humbling, but it can also be liberating. Your individual struggles and triumphs matter, but they are also part of a vast, ongoing narrative. You are both unique and universal, both singular and connected. The myths also remind you that storytelling itself is a fundamental human activity, perhaps one of the things that makes us most human. We are the species that tells stories, that shapes experience into narrative, that finds meaning through plot and character and symbol. From the earliest cave paintings to the latest streaming series, from ancient epics to personal anecdotes shared over dinner, we are always telling stories, always trying to make sense of the chaos of existence by giving it structure and meaning. And so, as this particular story, this journey through ancient myths and cultural mysteries, begins to draw to a close, you might reflect on your own stories, the narratives you tell about yourself and your life. Some of these stories serve you well, giving you strength and direction. Others might be holding you back, keeping you stuck in old patterns. The myths suggest that stories are not fixed, they can be retold, reinterpreted, reimagined. You are not bound by the narrative you have been living. You can, if you choose, tell a different story, one that opens up new possibilities, one that honors both where you have been and where you might go. But that is work for another time, for the daylight hours when the conscious mind is active and engaged. Right now, in this deep night, there is no work to be done. There is only rest, only the gentle letting go, only the soft descent into sleep. The myths have walked with you as far as they can. Now they step back, fading into the darkness, becoming part of the silence, part of the stillness, part of the vast, quiet space that holds you. You are safe here. You are held. The earth is beneath you, solid and patient. The sky is above you, infinite and calm. The air around you is soft, the temperature just right. Your body knows what to do. It has done this thousands of times before, this nightly journey into sleep, this daily practice of letting go. You can trust it. You can trust the process. You can trust that when you wake, you will be rested, renewed, ready to meet whatever the day brings. The myths will still be there, waiting in the background of your awareness, ready to offer their wisdom whenever you need it. They are not going anywhere. They have survived for thousands of years, and they will survive for thousands more. They are patient. They are generous. They ask nothing of you except that you listen, and even that is optional. They are content simply to exist, to be available, to offer their patterns and images to anyone who seeks them. As the final moments of this journey arrive, you might feel a deep sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the storytellers who kept these myths alive, passing them down through generations. Gratitude for the scholars and translators who made them accessible. Gratitude for the quiet night that has given you this space to rest and reflect. Gratitude for your own willingness to be here, to listen, to open yourself to these ancient voices. And perhaps, beneath all of that, a gratitude for existence itself, for the mysterious fact that you are here at all, that consciousness has arisen in this particular form, in this particular time and place, and that you have the capacity to wonder, to imagine, to dream, to tell and hear stories. This is the deepest gift of the myths. They remind you that being alive is itself a kind of miracle, a brief and precious opportunity to participate in the great unfolding of the universe. The night is almost over now, at least this particular journey through it. The myths have said what they came to say. The stories have been told. The images have been offered. Now there is only silence, and breath, and the soft, irresistible pull of sleep. You can let go completely now. You can release any remaining tension, any lingering thoughts, any sense of needing to stay alert or aware. You can sink fully into the darkness, into the warmth, into the deep, restful oblivion that awaits you. And as you drift away, as the last threads of consciousness dissolve, you might hear, very faintly, like a whisper from a great distance, the voices of all the storytellers who have ever lived, all the listeners who have ever gathered around a fire or a hearth or a screen, all the dreamers who have ever closed their eyes and traveled to other worlds. They are with you. They are part of you. You are part of them. The story continues, even as you sleep, even as you dream, even as you let go of everything and simply rest in the vast, gentle embrace of the night. Sleep well. Dream deeply. The myths will be here when you return, and so will the world, turning slowly on its axis, moving through its ancient cycles, carrying you forward into whatever comes next. For now, there is only this, the soft darkness, the quiet breath, the peaceful descent into sleep. Let it take you. Let it hold you. Let it carry you away. Before you go completely, before you cross that final threshold into deep sleep, there is one small thing. If you have found some peace here, some comfort in these ancient stories and gentle words. If this journey through myths and mysteries has helped you in any way, consider leaving a like on this video. It is a small gesture, but it helps others find their way here too, helps them discover this quiet space where they can rest and listen and let go.
And if you would like more journeys like this, more stories to accompany you through the night, consider subscribing to Gentle Sleep ASMR.
There are many more myths to explore, many more mysteries to contemplate, many more nights to travel through together. But do not let this interrupt your rest. If you are already drifting, already half asleep, let it go. The like and subscribe can wait until morning, or another time, or never. What matters most is that you are here, that you are resting, that you are taking care of yourself in this simple, essential way. Everything else is secondary. Everything else can wait. The myths bless you. The night holds you. Sleep comes for you now, gentle and inevitable, and you welcome it, opening yourself to its dark, restorative embrace. The stories fade. The voice fades. Everything fades except the soft, steady rhythm of your breath, the quiet beating of your heart, the deep, peaceful stillness that is sleep. Good night.